This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
I'm feeling very, very last 8 instead of 7 out of 10. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad at all. I'm in a state of shock, though, because my Austria-Greece 2004 dream came to an end yesterday. But let's start with Romania 0, Netherlands 3. Now, Netherlands dominated the game, but for a long time in this game, a very long time in this game, they really did struggle to find anything resembling a final goal. Cody Gakpo put them one up on 20 minutes, and from there, it was basically a procession of the Netherlands building up through midfield, getting it into a wide area, and then making an absolute arse of things. But in the 83rd minute, Daniel Malin scores. And in the 93rd minute, Daniel Malin scores. And then it's 3-0. And I feel like on the balance of play, the Netherlands warranted a 3-0 win. But because of their own ineptitude for such a long stretch, it kind of flattered them at the same time.
I mean, there's two ways to look at this. One is that you're correct. And the other is that all that build-up and all that nice approach play ended in Memphis to pie. That was, for a lot of it, my overriding impression. Like, the build-up play was good, and like we spoke about their midfield struggles, and they hadn't found the right answer, and they went back to Reinders and shooting in the middle, and it was better again. Like, we have to temper that with the fact that it was Romania who are not a superpower, but it was better. It was more balanced. They were able to win the ball quicker, and they progressed it, which is the most important aspect of all of that. Like, that was a big part of the reason why they had to get the midfield right. I thought Xavi Simons started quite well, but the longer the game went on, the more very, very young he looked. Like, he was trying to do everything himself and score. And like, him and Gakpo link up very, very well. But if they start doing things individually, or if he does particularly, that won't work at all. It's got to be something where they are playing with each other and for each other. And I'm afraid our friend Memphis, it's just not happening for him, is it? It looks very, very difficult and forced for him at the minute. He's not very, very sharp, and like, I think there must have been about 4 chances fell his way last night, and one of them he barely had to kick and couldn't quite do that. It was like an awkward stud prod, and it was very, very difficult to watch him. But overall, I think that was a step forward for Netherlands. Like, there were a couple of little tiny things that Koeman changed there. I know Bergwijn didn't really work because he was subbed off at half-time, but where the positions that Bergwijn was taking up left that whole flank for Dumfries to get forward, which is what you want Dumfries to doing if you're having Dumfries in your team. You want him as high up the pitch in spaces as possible, and they hadn't really done that in the opening couple of games. So that was an improvement. As I said, the central midfield was an improvement. Gakpo, I mean, you put just international tournament in the dressing room, and clearly he just scores goals. So that's what we need to do next season at Liverpool, obviously. I thought they were better. It's difficult to know how much better, because as good as Romania were in the first game, they've not played that well again since. But overall, I think that it would definitely be quite a big confidence booster for Netherlands, and especially not just sneaking through 1-0, but the fact that they did get a couple of goals at the end, even if one of them was possibly as a consequence of the goalkeeper having to boot some trainers out the way.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. A bit weird. I agree with what you said about Memphis. He doesn't look fit, is the thing. He doesn't have any match sharpness. There's clearly, like, Memphis, nobody will ever doubt the talent, and there was a couple of lovely moments where he rolled defenders and things like that. But yeah, when it came to that final action, he just wasn't capable. The same with Xavi Simons. As you said, his inexperience, his poor decision-making, it all seemed to come to the fore the more the game went on. Bergwijn was an interesting one because obviously he hadn't played in the competition thus far. And in he comes to start. It was a weird one because I would have thought Frimpong if you want a pacey winger. But in comes Bergwijn. Doesn't really have a huge impact on the game, but did feel like him and Dumfries combined quite well in the first half. But Dumfries would get in good positions and then pick the wrong option too often. So, look, you are right. They did look a lot better. They looked a bit more compact out of possession as well. The Reinders shouting midfield. I mean, they're both good players. They both use the ball well. I'm not sure how they'll be if they get pressed. They're both quite stiff. They're slow on the turn. They're both very upright as well. They're quite unusual in their running gait. But it's a midfield that works better than anything involving Joey Vermin. But of course, we saw Joey Vermin coming off the bench because why wouldn't he come off the bench having had 3 disappointing performances to date? The Netherlands are through and they will play Turkey. So Turkey beat Austria by 2-1. Mary Demirel scores in the first minute from a set piece. Mary Demirel scores in the 59th minute from a set piece. The first 10 minutes of the game were mental. And it could have been 2-2. But it settled into a pattern. Turkey get their second goal. Then Gregoritsch gets Austria back into the game on 66. And we get a pretty good ending to the game. And we get an absolutely unbelievable save by Mert Koenig, who's 35 years of age, plays for Besiktas. A lot of people have probably never seen him play, have probably never heard of him before. It is an absolutely outrageous save, Karl, to give Turkey the win and put them into a quarterfinal that, when they were capitulating against Portugal in their second group stage match, they probably didn't think was likely.
Yeah, I almost still struggle to believe Turkey have got through this because they have been in a couple of games before this. Like we spoke about the mentality. Now, obviously, it works both ways with a nation like Turkey. Like they can be like immensely resolute, they can be immensely strong-minded and all the rest of it, but also they can just switch off for like 15, 20 minutes at a time and come under complete pressure and look like they're going to collapse. And we saw that already in the group stage, but it was the complete opposite this time. It was like bodies on the line, ferocious work rate, everybody closing down, everybody doing everything they needed to do, even like a counter-attack in the 89th minute. They win with 3. Like, they didn't need to. They could have just run the ball into the corner, but I guess the players knew Barris was never going to do that. He was always going to either go for goal or try and create stuff. They went with him. They were furious when he didn't pass. Then everybody sprints back again. It was quite something to behold in that last stage of the game. The save was just phenomenal, like unreal. Unbelievable reaction, agility, and also like the power in the wrist, if you like, to flick it up away. It was really, really good. I thought it was a brilliant match, I have to say. It would have been summer. That's all I can say. It sounded great over the telly. I thought Austria in general did quite well, to be honest, in terms of their measured play, their approach play. They created quite a lot of chances. Like if they'd have won that game 3-2, I don't think anyone could have said that was undeserved, like with the exact same play and chances.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a really, really good game of football again.
Yeah. Yeah, probably, well, comfortably the best of the last 16 games. Congrats to Turkey. I'm shocked that they're through, but through they go, and we now have our knockout stage set.
I mean,
So
I don't know about you, but I think the the quarterfinals now are like perfectly matched up with how each of the nations have been. Like England against Switzerland, if we start at the bottom, is I'm sorry, Switzerland. It's two fairly dull nations, isn't it? Like Switzerland's play is fine. I don't mean their style of play, but in terms of the reputation, let's say, in the nation and how they usually do and where they usually get to, it's fairly vanilla, isn't it? That matchup, England and Switzerland, you just kind of assume they play each other every tournament somewhere along the way anyway. Portugal and France are like, in theory, superpowers, but neither of them playing particularly well. Both of them have a massive name up front. Spain and Germany have been the two best teams and the two favourites. One who looks like they could be the best and one who are the hosts. And then Netherlands, Turkey are definitely the most open teams, definitely the teams with sort of the biggest variance between defensive deficiency and attacking potential. And I think that's just the most open quarterfinal tie of all of them.
Yeah, I agree. And on paper, it's the one. Well, no, to be fair, if you were just looking at this from a reputation point of view, you would say without hesitation, England and Netherlands will go through.
Yeah.
And then the top half is much tougher to pick out.
Yeah.
But England could easily go out. Netherlands could easily go out because neither of them have played particularly well in this tournament. Netherlands yesterday being the exception. Netherlands at least can score goals, which is something England can't do. It's a really interesting group of 4 games. On Friday, we'll get Spain versus Germany. Then we'll get Portugal versus France. On Saturday, it's England, Switzerland, and then Netherlands, Turkey. And then the semi-finals will be Tuesday and Wednesday. And we're really down to the business end of the tournament now. You know, and like I would say that the only team that I thought would be here is Austria. I think I did have Italy beating Switzerland as well, obviously, but Italy hadn't played well. I was banking on Italy finding form. Austria played really well through the group stage and played well yesterday for large chunks of that game. But they're the only one, I think, that you would say have a right to be disappointed that they're not here based on what they've done across the tournament.
Yeah, that's fair.
Should be good. Now, we also had the final games in the Copa America group stage last night. Brazil took on Colombia. Rafinha put Brazil 1-0 up. And Daniel Muniz equalised. So that ends 1-1. In the other game, Costa Rica 2, Paraguay 1. Francisco Calvo scoring on 3 minutes. Josemir Altazor scoring on 7 minutes. Ramon Sosa did pull one back for Paraguay, but it wasn't enough. So, in that group, which was Group D, Colombia topped the group, and they go through, and Brazil go through as runners-up. So, Karl, we have our knockout set in the Copa America. We get Argentina versus Ecuador, and Venezuela versus Canada. That's the top half of the draw. Colombia versus Panama, and Uruguay, Brazil. And that will be Brazil without Vinicius Jr., who will be suspended after 2 yellow cards. So I think it's fair to say there's a couple of teams here that are surprising. The most obvious one is Panama, who qualify over the USA. But I think Venezuela, topping Group B over Ecuador and Mexico, winning all 3 games and looking like maybe the best team in the world, quite a surprise as well.
Yeah, so that's the immediate one to draw the eye, and have to obviously be open to him over in Germany, and Copa America is not the highest thing on the agenda, so my exposure to it has been minimal. It's been a couple of early games, and I happened to be in a bar for Colombia against Costa Rica. Was that the 3-0 one?
Yes.
Yes, I saw that one as well. But yeah, looking at the scores and how the groups have finished, first one to catch your eye is Venezuela. Like, not just first, I'm not just going through it all, but like 9 points. Really, really impressive considering, like, as a nation, never been to the World Cup. And even in the Copa America, like, quarterfinals is basically the long-standing achievement other than once they got to the semis. Finished fourth, obviously, in terms of their overall record. But I don't think, unless I read things wrong last night when I was looking, that they've ever won 3 games at a Copa, like in one tournament before. So already historic, regardless of if they go any further or not. And I mean, why would they not be confident? Like, Canada are a really good side. I like the Canada squad in general terms, but you've won 3 out of 3. Why would you not be confident? And then who knows what happens after that? Like, they've already shown that they can hold off supposedly strong sides and beat them by the odd goal if they need to. So massive praise for them. And yeah, it does look a really, really good matchup, that one, Venezuela to Canada.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
It does. And if you were picking teams, if you were to line all the players up, you'd probably say that Jonathan David and Alphonso Davies are the 2 best players between the 2 squads. But that was most likely the case when you lined up Venezuela, Ecuador. The top 2 or 3 players were probably from Ecuador. And the same if you lined up Mexico, Venezuela. The top 2 or 3 players were probably from Mexico. So they'll look at this, the Venezuelans, and they'll think, well, we've beaten Ecuador, who by pretty much any measure are a better team than Canada. And we've beaten Mexico, who are, roughly the equivalent of Canada, maybe a little bit better, maybe a little bit worse, but they're thereabouts. And we've beaten both of them. And there's no reason we shouldn't go into this game confident that we can reach the semi-final. And if they can, that will be an incredible achievement for them. And I would make them favourites to win that game based on what we've just seen in the groups. The Canadians, to their credit, they played pretty well in their group stage matches. They didn't let themselves down at all. But they did only win the 1 game, and that was against 10-man Peru. So not like a thing where they've been at their very best. They lost to Argentina, beat 10-man Peru, and then drew a very dull game with Chile.
And like Venezuela, you would not obviously normally think about in terms of household names. You just mentioned like the standout players, but they actually have a few really, really decent, very, very good players playing in Europe now in that squad. Yeah. Like John Aramburu, obviously, whatever you want to call it, from Real Sociedad, they've nationalised him if you want, or whatever. He was born in Venezuela, but obviously over in Real Sociedad since like really young. Jordan Osorio is at Parma, and Yangel Herrera, who's been in Spain for ages. Girona. Guy's favourite of all time, Salomon Rondon, still going strong, over 100 caps now. And who's the one for Marisao? John de Cádiz. He's had a couple of good years in Portugal as well. Like, reasonable goal scorer at that level as well. So quite a few players in there. Thomas Rincon as well. Just seen his. Thomas
Rincon is still going strong at 36, 134 caps in. Still booting people up in the air with Raúl Navandas.
Great outlet.
There's good players littered through the team. They're not the biggest of names. Like Aramburu is probably the one who right now is playing at the highest level at Real Sociedad and playing very well for them. But, this is a collective of hard grafting, talented players. Christian Caceres of Toulouse is a solid player. Like, there's good players throughout, and they're not going to roll over. I mean, Yandel Herrera was on Man City's books for years. I think like 6-7 years, had endless loans, like you said, mostly in Spain, was part of the brilliant Girona team last season, has been there now 2 years. He's a really good player. I remember when City bought Douglas Luiz the following summer, when Villa bought Douglas Luiz from City, the following summer they were linked with Herrera, and I think he was coming off the spell at, or maybe the first loan at Granada, where he'd had that really good season, and they were linked with him. And I remember thinking, if they get him, like, at the time he looked like when Arturo Vidal was playing at Bayer Leverkusen. He was playing as a 10, but he was almost like a defensive midfielder in that number 10 role. And I remember thinking, like, this guy might be something really special. Now, he hasn't quite become that, but he has become a very good player. A lot will depend on him. Like, he is the best player in the team. But, yeah, nobody's letting that team down. And it's great to see Solomon Rondon and Thomas Rincon, you know, at this age, still contributing so much at the international level. So the winner of that will take on the winner of Argentina-Ecuador. Argentina won all 3 group games. They look very much in the mood to just run through this competition and secure their 3rd international tournament in a row, which would make them only the 2nd team to do that after that great Spanish team from 2008 to 2012. It would be an incredible achievement, especially given the knock on Messi for so long was, well, he's done nothing at international level. They won nothing. If he can end his career winning 3 international tournaments in a row, like, it would just be the crowning glory for him.
I mean, it would be wild, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. Like I said, I've not been watching, so I don't know how much we can say this time is down to Messi. You'll be able to say that a lot more than me if you know, it's been completely sensational.
No, he's been good, but like, it's not like a thing where every single game is just the Lionel Messi show.
Yeah,
he didn't play their 3rd group game against Peru. He was okay against Chile. Played very well in the first game against the Canadians. But yeah, no, it hasn't been like vintage Messi.
But look, there's an argument.
He's paced himself.
Yeah, there's an argument to say that that's more important for Argentina. If you want sustained success beyond 3 tournaments with Messi, you have to play well without him. You have to find a way without him as well, or without him being at his best, let's say. I mean, look, I've always, like most people on the planet, or possibly half the people on the planet and half the people don't, I don't know. I like Messi. I love watching him play, and I think he's deserved every bit of the success that he's got. And if it takes a fluke or someone else to do it for him to get another international tournament win, I'm all for it. I don't care. 3 major international tournaments in a row would be pretty stunning, and that all after he initially retired.
Yeah, exactly. Retired and then thought, no, you know what? I'm just coming back and I'm winning everything. And nobody's getting in the way. The one big plus for them in this tournament that they didn't have in the World Cup is they have a really, really in-form Lautaro Martinez. Now, he's not starting. It's the Messi Alvarez front 2. Martinez started the last game, but he has been really, really good thus far in this tournament, and that's a big plus because when he's at his best, he's a tremendous player. So that's the top half. In the bottom half of the group, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask what Di Maria's role has been as well, like, because he's obviously only just a year younger than Messi. He's got nearly 150 caps himself. He has to be replaced at some point as well. What's his role now?
So he's been a weapon off the bench for them. He did start the last game because they were already through, so they rotated against Peru, rotated most of the squad. I think Martinez started, Tagliafico started, and I think the entire rest of the group, Emi Martinez, that is, and Tagliafico left back. I think everybody else was changed. So he's been a weapon off the bench for them, and as is his way, with his energy, with his directness, he was pretty effective. I think he might start the first game. I'm trying to think if he started. He definitely didn't start the Chile game. I'm trying to think if he started the Canada game. He might have. So maybe it's he starts one, he sits one, he starts one, he sits one. But he hasn't, he's still an effective player. And given it's international football, it is slower. It's less intense than club football. So I think that helps someone like Di Maria, who always plays at 100 miles an hour. I really like this Argentina team. I think there's something about them where they just seem to have a mindset that elevates the talent level. We know they've got really good players, but they just seem to have this belief that nobody can beat them at the moment, which, I mean, when you're world champions and you're reigning Copa champions, I mean, you've probably earned that mindset.
It is literally true.
Do you know? In the bottom half then, Colombia, who top Group D, take on Panama, who, I mean, an amazing achievement for them to get out of the group stage. An absolutely amazing achievement. They lost to Uruguay in their opening game. Then they beat the USA. Now, that's largely because Timothy Weah is a fucking idiot. And then in their final game, they beat Bolivia 3-1 with 2 late goals. But they fully warrant their spot. Colombia, I would imagine, will be the end of the road for Panama. Colombia have looked good. They beat Paraguay, they beat Costa Rica, and they drew with Brazil. Diaz did not have a good first game, was better in the second game. And I didn't watch last night's game because I fell asleep. But I've seen the highlights, and it looks like he was lively, as he tends to be. My guess would be that Colombia come through. But again, Panama, with Venezuela getting to a quarterfinal, potentially a semi-final, huge achievement. For Panama to get out of the group stage, huge achievement.
Are you picking a scoreline or just a result?
I'll go 3-1 Colombia.
I'll go 2-0.
I will pick Argentina to beat Ecuador by 2-0. And I'll pick Venezuela to beat Canada by 2-1.
I'll go 2-0 Argentina over Ecuador, just looking at their group stage record there. And which was the other one you just picked? Sorry, Canada, Venezuela.
Yeah.
And what was your score?
2-1 Venezuela.
I'll go 1-0 Venezuela.
So that leaves us with the final game then. And this is the glamour tie. It's Uruguay versus Brazil. Brazil were desperate to win that game last night to avoid Uruguay in the last 8 and hold that one off until the semi-final. But unfortunately for them, it wasn't to be, and they've lost Vinicius as well. Uruguay, they beat the USA, they destroyed Bolivia, they beat Panama pretty comfortably. Uruguay have looked really good, Karl. Really, really good. They look like the biggest threat to Argentina, whereas Brazil, they started off with a 0-0 draw against Costa Rica. Then they beat Paraguay 4-1, and for about half an hour in that game, looked really, really good. But for the first half an hour, had looked a little bit disinterested. And then they draw with Colombia last night. When you look at the Brazil team, the fullbacks, Danilo and Wendell, they don't fill you with confidence. and neither does much of the rest.
You going with a big Uruguay win? A knockout?
I don't think it'll be a big win, but like if I look at the midfield battle, which I think will be key, I love Guimaraes and I really like João Gomes, but I don't like the pairing. Like I just don't think it's a pairing that is going to stand up against Fede Valverde and Manuel Ugarte, who are just going to run all over them. I think that's where they lose that game. And not having Vinny, and the fact that their fullbacks just aren't very good. I'm going to go Uruguay 2-1.
Just looking here at how Uruguay have been set up, basically showing up as a 4-2-3-1. The odd variation. Ugarte and Valverde as a double pivot. I mean, that's a lot of ferocity in there.
Yeah, energy for days. And like Guimaraes and João Gomes, I mean, they're both really good players, but they're not the most dynamic duo in the world.
How do you think this Uruguay side, and given in mind that it's Marcelo Bielsa on the bench as well, is shaping up in terms of mentality? Because that's the other thing that we've seen sometimes with Uruguay. Like if they go behind or they need a goal, they start to get a bit reckless. You think of them at the World Cup, but they didn't need to do too much, but they just couldn't do it. They couldn't pull it off.
Thus far, we haven't found out in this tournament because they haven't been behind. But the America game, they didn't need to win. A draw would have been enough. They probably could have lost it and gone through given their goal difference advantage. But they just seemed to have a real belief in themselves that they were going to win the game. And even when they missed a couple of chances, they still seemed to believe, oh, well, we'll just get another one. There'll be another chance and we'll take the next one. Darwin is playing full of confidence, and I think he's always a good barometer. They did lose Araujo, the left winger, in the last game to what looked like a nasty injury, a clash of heads. So he was stretched off in the neck brace. I wouldn't expect that he plays. He's been vital for them. So I'll be curious to see what they do with him not there. But, you know, you see what they're bringing off the bench as well. Luis Suarez, Rodrigo Bentancur, Jose Maria Jimenez. Like, they're bringing veteran players with a bit of gnarl about them off the bench as well. They're just a good team. They're a balanced team. They're strong defensively, great in midfield. The line behind Darwin is not star names, Palestri, De La Cruz and Araujo, but they work hard and they do their jobs. And then Darwin, look, he's Darwin, so he's missing some chances, but he scored in 2 of the 3 games. He scored in 7 straight games going into that United States game. He's playing with confidence. He's playing really well. So that they're going to be a force. They look like the biggest threat to Argentina right now.
And you've gone 2-1 for them to win?
I've gone 2-1.
I'm going to go with a complete blind confidence here and go for a big 3-0.
Oh, I like it. Right. We'll leave it there for today. We'll be back tomorrow to fill your ears with gibberish because we're now in a situation where we have no game today, we have no game tomorrow, but we will have games on Friday, so at least there's that to look forward to. Take care. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.